In this video, I'm going to show you how I built my new hobby space, and then talk a little bit about how my relationship with the hobby has changed over the past couple of years, and what my plans are for the future. I'm Dean, and welcome to Dean Paints Things. So, recently I've moved house and gained a much larger hobby space than I had before. As awesome as that is, it did present some challenges. Namely, how do I use this extra space? How do I lay things out? And how do I want to hobby? However, before I could start, I had to clear out the mess that was left over from moving. As anyone who's moved house will know, you end up with boxes everywhere and need a place to dump things that you haven't unpacked yet. For us, that was my hobby room. As nobody needed to sleep in here, it slowly got filled up with rubbish, empty boxes, and anything else without a home. Now that's out of the way, it's on to the fun stuff. One of the first things I decided was that I really wanted my miniatures to be on show, taking pride of place in the room. But I didn't want to be dusting them all the time, so I needed something with glass doors. After some research and lots of measuring, I went with 3 of the Billy bookcases with Oxburgh glass doors from IKEA. The best place to furnish your home, right? I picked up some extra shelves at the same time, so I could make the most of that storage space and squeeze more models in. These were very easy to assemble, with a simple hinge mechanism for attaching the doors to the cabinets, and I'm really pleased with the end result, particularly for the price. When researching display cabinets, I noticed it would be very easy to spend an awful lot of money, which I couldn't really justify. These units strike a good balance between price and functionality, whilst giving me a lot of space to grow into for the future, and I can't wait to fill them up. Another important item was the desk. In my old hobby space, I had a small desk that needed to house my computer, airbrush compressor, painting supplies, and desk space to paint. It was cramped and definitely felt like it. With my new room being that much bigger, I wanted a larger desk that I could use as more of a multi-purpose work surface. I play video games as well as paint miniatures, so I needed a desk that could be flexible enough for both of my hobbies. In the end, I went with a kitchen worktop and 3 of the Alex drawer units, which will give me plenty of storage space for brushes, tools, palettes, as well as all my new video and lighting equipment for making these videos. The worktop itself is 2.5 meters long, so it gives me plenty of space to spread out and have everything I need within easy reach and enough space to work comfortably with. I used some of the cable tidying accessories from IKEA to keep everything neat and tidy under the desk, and as a final touch, I added an LED strip to the desktop for ambient lighting and picked up a nice desk lamp for adding some contrasting light to my videos. For paint storage, I had some nail varnish racks from my old house, and they've worked really well, so there was no need to change them. I just picked up some pine boards, stained them to match my desktop, and then attached them to the wall with some shelf brackets. I framed the shelves with a couple of kitchen wall cupboards, giving me plenty of space to store primers, water cups, bits boxes, basing supplies, and all of the other hobby bits that we collect. Next up is the dreaded pile of shame. Sorry, I know that we call them piles of potential now. This was stacked up in some old bookcases that I already had, and they were positioned next to my desk, so I can be constantly reminded of my unbuilt projects. I'm hoping that will help me to actually start them and finish them instead of buying even more new miniatures, but we'll see how that works. I think I have a problem. Now that all the furniture is in place, it's finally time to put everything back in and unpack the models. I'm really happy with how everything has turned out, and I love how much space I've got now. I would say that I'm ready to hit the hobby hard, but there's just one issue with that. My hobby has changed. I used to play 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes more. I had a healthy play group at work. We played Warcry, Kill Team and Frostgrave on lunch breaks, and then longer format games after work. This regular gaming was a lot of fun, and definitely helped me to push forward, improve, and it gave my hobby purpose. Needing those models for narrative scenarios, or to expand rosters, gave me deadlines and targets to work towards, which kept my motivation high. I'd definitely become a paint-to-play type hobbyist. Then COVID-19 hit, and all of that went away, and it hasn't come back. And if I'm being honest with myself, it never will. Not for me, at least in my situation. My colleagues and I now work from home most of the time, and we're rarely in the office on the same day. And on those days that we are, we have different priorities now, so gaming doesn't really get a second thought. Of course, there are local clubs and groups around, but the scheduling has been patchy due to the lockdowns, and they've generally been limiting numbers to keep everyone safe. And if I'm being honest with myself again, joining a new group is a little bit scary. I'm sure that's something that will resonate with a lot of you. You're putting yourself, your hobby, your choices and your paint jobs out there for all to see. I don't think that I'm mentally ready to do that yet, especially in my current hobby slump, so that's something I'll have to build up to. This has been hard for me to deal with and has definitely impacted my hobby motivation, as I'm sure it has for many hobbyists over the last couple of years. For the first few months of the pandemic, my motivation actually spiked. With the extra time saved from not commuting and not being able to go out and do things that I normally would, it was great. I've got all this free time to paint models. I can finally finish those outstanding projects and have them ready for when we go back to normal. But as the months passed and the restrictions actually tightened instead of loosened, it became apparent that we weren't going to go back to normal, at least not soon. For me, this is when my motivation took a nosedive. Without having those deadlines and those people to share my hobby with, I stopped painting and found it very difficult to sit down and pick up a brush. A few times I tried to force myself, but that didn't end well. And on the odd occasion that I actually wanted to paint, I found that after such a long break, I'd lost all my fine muscle control and brush control, so it was difficult to paint to the standard that I had in the past. This led to a lot of self-doubt and a feeling of just wanting to give up and quit the hobby completely. However, through all of this, I knew I still loved the hobby. I was still reading the Black Library books, I was still watching for new releases, I was still scrolling through Instagram looking at everyone's awesome work, and I was still watching all the wonderful creators here on YouTube having fun and enjoying their hobby, despite the pandemic. That got me thinking, and is why I'm here today speaking to you right now. With the house move and a revamped hobby space, I'm treating this as a fresh start. A chance to be honest with myself about how and why I hobby, and an opportunity to change that. Maybe I can find enjoyment in painting itself, or sharing experiences with other hobbyists, working on different types of projects. Who knows? I certainly don't, but I intend to find out. With all that said, it's been quite fun to film this video and quite cathartic to share my recent challenges with the hobby, but I can already see the outlines of something positive on the horizon. This is my first video on the channel and I've already had support from loads of people reaching out offering advice and tips, and I'd particularly like to thank Benji from Benji's Hobbies, who's helped me with all kinds of advice, equipment advice, editing advice, you name it, he's been there. I've got his details down in the description below so you can go and check out his channel. I'm sure you're all subscribed already, if not, why not? So please go and check him out, he's a great guy. I'd love to hear from you down in the comments below about how the pandemic has impacted or changed your relationship with the hobby, for better or for worse, and hopefully that can help you start a conversation to reframe your hobby in the same way that I am. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon, all that good stuff, so you can join me on this next chapter of my own hobby journey. Catch you in the next one.